All right, guys. Because I can. What's up? What's up? How are we doing today? Just got done watching Dynamite. He got some good thoughts out there. Thank you for the shout out, by the way, if you're watching. Um, Pretty busy. Not much going on. But price action, didn't do much. It's okay. Life, right? I mean, a life of GME shareholder. Um, Nothing new, honestly. Like, I feel like the price action speaks for itself. However, it's like calm before the storm type of deal here. Um, but hold on, let me see. I feel like today, not quite sure how long I'm gonna be here for, so it might be a short show. But we'll see. We'll see. Whether we're gonna have anything to talk about. Of course, like in the context of Bitcoin and all that stuff, it's um, it's still the narrative that is going to stand over time, right? Currently, there's a lot of disagreement. I feel like uh, with Bitcoin again, like it's been around for quite some time, and people are still disagreeing. So that's the opportunity, and how many people are actually hold Bitcoin and understand what Bitcoin is to that extent. So there will still be people disagreeing with what MicroStrategy is doing, and apparently he's offering another round of a preferred share of some sort, a perpetual preferred share. It's pretty interesting if you want to look at it. It's called Stride with a D. So pretty creative in which he try to raising more capital for the company to buy into Bitcoin. So I was kind of like looking to that a little bit there. But it's a bit complicated for me to understand at the moment. But essentially, it is a bond market to try to capture some of those debt market that you know U.S. Treasury bonds and all that stuff. How the government has been kind of issuing bonds, and then nobody wants to buy bonds from the government, right? Because of the uncertainty and all that stuff. But and so again, this is the competition for the bond market. What I wish would happen is that GME would do something like that. But again, like we have our own strategy, so which I respect that. It's okay, it is what it is, and I trust Ryan Cohen to know what to do at that moment in time. Hey, what's up, Dynamite? Good evening. Good evening. How was your vacation? Oh, was great. I mean, it was a short one at that. I wish I had more time, but was able to see a friend that I haven't seen for quite some time. So we did some good things. Yeah. Um, should I tell you where I was? I don't know why. Um, I went to New York City and was able to see the New York Stock Exchange. It was like kind of fun to see the charging bull. Got some good pictures there. So, and I didn't realize how big the building is, and yeah, it's fun to see it, in person. It's like, oh, okay, this is where the action is. So, and then went to Statue of Liberty and all that stuff. So, got to see a whole bunch of places that I haven't, but yeah, I've never been to New York City. So, the only thing I don't like is that too many crowd, like too much people, too many people walking around. I'm kind of like, introvert here. So, not much of a crowd person. So, but pretty refreshing to see. But thank you for asking because again, what's up? What's up, Michael? Michael. Um, but anyway, so let's get back to the price action here. Dynamite did some technical analysis already for us. So let's just skip that. I'm just kidding. I know I saw your position and all that stuff. So pretty nice. I also have SoFi, so I also have a self-directed one, but it's like a Roth IRA type thing. So I have a limit on how much I could add to that. So this year, though, I have the ability to max out on my Roth IRA, but I'm kind of waiting on how much money did I made and all that stuff. So one year I did go over the amount that I supposed to not contribute. So I'm trying to avoid withdrawing from that account. So this year, I'm a bit more careful on the amount I added before I should know how much I made that year before I added to the account. So I'm not able to add to that one. But with the trading account, though, in and out and really on other stuff. So, but anyway, so I'm getting ready to come back to GME on my trading account, but currently I'm tied up with XRP and all my crypto stuff. So remember, my origin is from crypto. So of course, I feel like crypto is a little bit more, I guess, risky in that sense. But for me, again, even though I'm risky on the crypto side, I still am picking the most fundamental coins out there. I know you could argue that hey, Bitcoin is a scam, right? For people who doesn't like Bitcoin, right, or crypto in a sense. But again, to me, it's just a new asset class that people perhaps don't understand it quite well. And so precisely that's why it's an opportunity, and that's why it's so volatile. Even the most smart, the most rich, the most whatever, the people who have the most money, right? They typically don't like that. They don't like anything new that could disrupt the whole entire financial system. But over time, it's inching towards that. We've been seeing, within this past year, there's a growing interest in the blockchain, and it's been like that for what 5-6 years already, right? Ever since the NFT marketplace and all that stuff. So we are on the cutting edge for sure, in terms of holding Bitcoin in our balance sheets as a company, and that's nothing to scoff at, by the way. Like when people are saying like, GME got punished and all that stuff. No, it's not punished because the market. No, it got punished because somebody, okay, is short on this severely, and they need some time to try to kind of unwind what they were doing, right? And of course, like as a retail investor, we've been in this company for quite some time, and I know it's been a long waited for most people. I don't know how long people have been in here for, right? For me, I know exactly when. So since over here, somewhere, I remember $60 for sure. For some reason, is it up here? Oh goodness, might have been up here. I have to go back to see where my buy order is. I just remember on this spike over here when it was try to see. Oh, maybe it's gonna break that triangle thing. So but anyway, so ever since then I've been kind of dollar cost averaging. And my cost average, I think I told you guys already, it was around here somewhere. But of course, now I'm trying to do some trading on that account too, to just see if I could, get more shares. But currently, I'm still waiting to see if I could accumulate more shares on that Roth. But obviously, there are some amounts that I'm not willing to part with. I have my strategy going on, so I implore people to have their own too. Anyway, why am I ranting on that? SoFi credit card is the way to go. Love the fact that you can Oh yeah. Wow. So I don't have SoFi credit card, but I do have their debit card. I use uh I've been using other bank for a long time, so that's my default credit. But I did kind of like wanting to see their credit card. So you get points, huh? How many points? So is it 1.5 or something percent? If it's more than 1.5, I would switch up to that. I just never checked it out for some reason because I already use. I mean, I already have my regular credit card and try not to get in the habit of like opening up more credit card. So I just been using for 12 years in that same account. So, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind if it's return more than what I'm usually getting on my other credit card. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Ricky, what's up? What's up? Anyway, so let's just talk about the price real quick. I know, kind of boring, right, for some people. But you know what I've noticed here is that the volume is below the average. Okay, this is the moving average for volume. I think I learned that somewhere from someone. Hold on. Moving average. Okay, moving average. And so we're belowing the moving average right now within this past 3 days. So what does that mean? It means that there's no really anyone selling this thing or trading this thing. Okay, so it could just be institution who's trying to move the price up and down at will. Now these are more volume than average. I forgot to save this video, but there was some guy who are really good at trading based on institutional level traders, and he was saying that it's easy for large institution to manipulate the price, but they're not as easily manipulating the volume. So you could really use the volume to kind of dictate whether it's a liquidity grab or it's actually people trading in and out. So volume will tell you that, right? So again, I'm just assuming based on that statement. I was like, okay, so this is probably not manipulated, but this is manipulated. I, you know, again, assumption, right? I'm good on assuming things all the time. So, all right, guys, what's up, Amber? What's up? What's up? All right. So, how are we feeling about GameStop buying Bitcoin? Anyone disagreeing with the amount or anything? I just feel like any amount of Bitcoin is a good thing, right? Because if you are if you know who I am, right? Bitcoin is the pristine collateral, and I really think that in the next 10 years, and if this whole train about Bitcoin adding to bonds, okay, like the bit bond thing, and those idea has been thrown around in the Bitcoin conference, if you've been listening to it or not. um and these type of ideas, I would not ignore that type of thing, right? When these big figureheads go on stage and talk about these things, they really want it to happen, okay? And so whether it's going to be the next election cycle or whatever, right, that train will be, that train will not stop, okay? And the same train that every government's out there, all they could do is print. Oh my goodness! You know what I just realized, you guys? I'm still on the screensaver for some reason. Okay, I've been showing only you guys this one. But anyway, so that's a good podcast just now. Okay, let's switch back to a live show. Thank you. Okay, I support Bitcoin purchase. I think it was a smart move from. Okay, great, good that. Good on you. Good on you. GME holding this amount of Bitcoin is insurance. Yes, for sure. I really think that he's gonna add more. Like it's crazy not to add more, right? And I'm sure, again, 10% off of our balance sheet. That's nothing to scoff at all. 10% is a good amount to like you said. Insurance, yes, for sure. And that's not important though. The most important thing is that Ryan Cohen understand what Bitcoin is, and that is a hedge, right? He talked about it extensively on that interview. So take it as its face value, and knowing how conservative he is as a CEO has been, right? About allocating the capital the right way, the best way he knows how. And even though it's slow for most people, like for some reason they think that they should have done this 10 years ago. It's like, no. Okay. 10 years ago, Bitcoin was still not, mainstream. No, I'm just exaggerating. It's like there was a guy who was like, oh, they should have done that when Michael Saylor did it, a couple years back. But again, back then it was considered the high risk, and of course, like subsequently, right, when Trump was in the office the first time, he didn't like Bitcoin either, right? So there was some uncertainty there. He didn't necessarily going after, crypto company, but his SEC, which is Jay Clayton, right, the guy who, was kind of pick and choose winners and losers, right? Because if you know anything about Jay Clayton, I know about him because it related to Ripple, okay, XRP. Because at the time I had XRP, a lot of XRP, and was affected by the lawsuits and all that stuff. So, but I knew that XRP was useful, very utility based, and yes, it was risky in that sense because then the lawsuit was kind of dampened the progress of XRP ledger. And that's why nobody wants to build on the XRP ledger as like the Ethereum. Now come to find out, this guy later on go into some Ethereum based hedge fund later on after he stepped down as a SEC. Not only that, on his way out, placed the lawsuit on the XRP and Ripple, And so that's, again, staying the reputation of Ripple and XRP to try to, progress forward. But again, now the lawsuit is been resolved. My point is that, back then, it was very risky for Ryan Cohen to get into Bitcoin in that sense. So, in a sense, we were protected by that. Yes, the upside, had he done it before, right, he would have had more, Bitcoiners, diehards, who would, buy into GameStop just because of that. Supporting into GameStop just because, they buy Bitcoin into their treasury. But nonetheless, better late than never, right? So now we have Bitcoin, it's confirmed. So nobody could say, oh, do they really have Bitcoin on their balance sheet? So the confirmation alone, should solidify any doubt that they will buy Bitcoin into their balance sheets. The question is, of course, the ongoing question is that, are we going to add more? And my speculation is, why not, right? Perhaps moving forward, we're going to allocate some amount of our earnings, from the business and all that stuff, 10%. Why not, right? In perpetuity, that we're going to allocate 10%. And will Ryan Cohen announce that? I don't think so. But that's my speculation, right? So every time we earn anything, we're going to put some in Bitcoin and then use the rest to move forward, with whatever. What are we going to do? I don't know. Even in the marketable security, right? we do see some rate kind of rising, in terms of like the higher yield or higher longer yield curve. So that's why you see the value of TLT coming down in value. So this means that the rate is going higher. So if GME still have that marketable security, we will receive, instead of 4%, we might be able to get 5% a year. So even with that, we're still come ahead. Of course, with the bond market, right? I feel like the bond market has been kind of warned that it's gonna break, because with the Japanese bond, nobody wants the government bond. And I really think this is why MicroStrategy kind of take advantage of this uncertainty in the bond market to issue those bonds for MSDR. And I think it's a smart move for their strategy in terms of trying to convert the bond market into Bitcoin, borrowing other people's money to buy Bitcoin. And then, people who really love, when I said people, like institution, or even, people on SoFi, you actually could buy Strike or Strife or whatever on that. So I'm actually thinking about buying that. I mean, if you could get 10% a year and everything is backed up by Bitcoin, I think that's a good deal, right? Now, assuming that you understand that Bitcoin will grow, and again, this is an assumption, right? You could just ask AI how much Bitcoin will grow from year to year from now on. So MicroStrategy, think that it's going to go 30% a year, and on average. Okay. So if that's the case, he thinks that if you let him borrow at 10%, he is actually making $1 into $3 eventually a year. Okay. Again, that's an assumption, right? If you believe in Bitcoin in that sense. So, to me, that's a good deal. Now, you might say, like, well, why would anyone want to borrow or lend that money to Strategy? There are people who will lend them, right? Because they have the security of, okay, no matter what, you're going to get your principal back. And then, like the convertible notes, okay, who would want to lend money to GME at a 0%? Well, there are people who did that. And of course, like if you look at the bond market, for GME, it went up, right? Just like what Moran was saying this morning. Yeah, if you factor in what the bond market is trading at, there are demands for that, for sure. It's like to say that nobody would be dumb enough to do that. Well, it's demonstrated in how it's trading right now on the market. So whether those people are dumb or you are the dumbest one for not realizing that or not, that's what the market is telling. And yeah, so people will be willing to lend at 10%, wouldn't you? I would, right? So and people who are seeking like fixed income too, they would do that too. So yes, for now it's going to be considered high risk for sure, right? If the market is like calling for de-risking, in the market, so the share price of GME will suffer too because of that narrative. And again, it's just a sentiment base, has nothing to do with the fundamental of anything. Okay, so when the sentiment is bad, right, the price will do all sorts of things. And just know that it's just psychological. I'm telling you. That word is prominent. I think that's the right word. Yeah, sorry. For sure, right? So, okay. MicroStrategy is low over leverage. If Bitcoin falls, you will have a hard time. True. But I think the asset that he has right now, I don't agree with that. I mean, how much asset? I think he has like over $60 billion. So when they said over leverage, he hasn't even issued like how much? Like 30 billion debt? No, I mean $30 billion in debt. Not even, I don't think. So it's less than like it's 1 to 1, 2 to 1. Sorry. So with this, right? Let's just say he was able to issue more. He's gonna funnel that into Bitcoin. So the higher Bitcoin's gonna go, again, the speculation. I mean, the assumption is that Bitcoin's gonna go up from here in value, which I think that's just gonna happen, right? Because if you look at, and I showed this one last show as well, stock to flow model. It's crazy to think that Bitcoin is overvalued since, right? And so that leverage will still be there, but I don't think it's going to be imminent. Like even if Bitcoin were to fall down half the price today, like at $50,000, they will still be fine, right? Because they're just perpetually, paying off in a year. And then the next year, Bitcoin's going to do something else. Now, unless it falls down like, $2,000, okay, all in one day. But even then, he could just issue more, the bond market. It's like, hey, give me $1 billion right now, right, at 20%. You think people wouldn't want to do that? Come on. Like I would want them to do that. And yeah, so it's like a mechanism, right? So he using the debt market to leverage over Bitcoin and to just, again, converting the fiat currency into the most, pristine collateral, the rarest, digital asset. So again, don't take my word for it. Just wait and see what happened. But I really think that MicroStrategy is misunderstood in that sense. So the more I learn about the company, the more I'm like bullish on it too. But I'm more like a bond kind of holder type thing, just in case, right? Because the bondholder has a seniority. So if anything happens to MSDR, the bondholder get paid first. Okay, paid out first type thing. So the seniority is there. So that's the stability that is going to give these institutions that's the institutional level to invest into the company in that sense. So the capital structure is robust in this time. Okay, not to say again in perpetuate, forever until the end of time. Of course, eventually, yes. If Bitcoin were to stabilize and it's not going to have that volatility anymore, he won't be able to do what he does today. So I think he's just capturing the fact that it's still kind of new and still volatile, and that people could bet up and down the stock, common stock itself, because again, when people think just like you, right? Because again, when people think that they are over leveraged, what is inevitably going to happen? People are going to try to short it, right? Just like GME, right? If people think that it's overvalued, they're going to try to short it, and that movement, that price movement, is what MicroStrategy is trying to capture, based on the bond. And the people that buy bonds, right? They will try to get ahead by buying bonds while shorting the actual stock. So that's what they were doing with our stock too, the same way, right? Because that opportunity for them, because they understand it more than the retail investor, they are able to capitalize it on the movement on that moment in time. So so long as the asset that they hold is volatile, it's actually beneficial for them to issue more, right? To strip away, that volatility. So um, it's actually very it's a genius move, actually. If you think about it. But anyway, it's remain to be seen. But my point is that at this level here, it's the smartest thing to do, to borrow money and buy it, right? And he has the ability to, you know, um, to have $60 billion. What if, let's just say, Bitcoin goes 3x from here, right? That's 100. Right? Wait, it's like 200 million, $200 billion, right? On six, but 6 times 3, what is that? $180 billion. So with that, they could use that to, even offer more share, even offer more debt, right? So 10% off of that a year, not like they will service that until the end of time, if it's correct. I mean, they have 30 years to catch up to that. So again, assuming that Bitcoin's gonna grow 30% a year from now. Okay. Anyway, I think people are moving from SDR to mainstream Bitcoin. Temporarily, I'm sure they're gonna be in and out. Bitcoin ETF. Remember, ETF is not really Bitcoin, right? So there are people who understand that. There are people who want the actual Bitcoin, right, rather than the ETF. So those inflows is only for people who don't understand what or how to, or doesn't want to hold their own Bitcoin. So in which case, I would trust micro seller more than the ETF people, but that's just me. Okay, GME is because of our business, of course. I mean, we have our own strategy for sure. It's not, MicroStrategy has their own strategy on bond conversions and all that stuff. But for us, I think it's more like the business that we could also correlate it with, and use the technology rather than trading the token to get more. So we have the opportunity to use the technology other than that. So, but that again, that's going to take time, right? To understand the market, to understand where the global, dealers are, the globalists, people trying to get us to be digitalized. And I think, again, this is a plan all along, right? You've seen that less and less people wanting to use cash. So digital movement of value is coming, and I think the next 10 years, I think we're gonna live in a different place. hopefully it's a good one. Okay. Okay, Ryan Cohen is smart. He's smarter than my seller, and I just don't trust Michael. Okay, that's fine. Just your opinion. I disagree with that, but again, like, do I trust Michael Saylor more than Ryan Cohen? No, that's true. But I think they're just different CEO. They're just different minds, a different way of operating the company. So, and then also too, we have a different business model too, right? So, they are definitely different. I mean, Cohen, not much of a shower, right? he's more like a doer. while Michael Saylor is more like a shower and just like the figurehead that would just go out there and, hey, make this happen, and then his team would make it happen, right? While Ryan Cohen, he's like rolling his sleeve and then work diligently for that. So I respect for sure. I respect Ryan Cohen more than Saylor. But yeah, Saylor's for sure is a risk taker, like very high risk, high reward type of deal. And in a way, because of the sense of urgency in this market, that is also should be appreciated as well, because like in this type of industry, right, in crypto, you have to be fast mover for sure. Like if you're late to the game, right, you might not be able to capture that cycle and that wave of spikes and all that stuff. So I think Seller is just trying to get ahead of the game here, and yeah, to be the biggest company that holds Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So okay, what do you think is the peak of the crypto? What do you think? You mean like when? Is it like, oh, okay, when? Yeah. When is the peak? I think it's the end of this year. But again, each cycle I notice, even from here, right, it's extended. So a little bit extension. So with this one also too, I think the fact that the Fed doesn't lower the rate yet and all that stuff, and they kind of extended the lower rates, higher for longer type of deal here. So the crypto market is kind of following that liquidity grab. I think, remember I showed you the Raoul Paul, he's a pretty smart guy. So he talked about how it is extended based on the central bank, liquidity, global liquidity and all that stuff. So because it's been extended, the business cycle is going to be extended as well. So long as, we're still staying in this limbo, it might still kind of trade sideways. And then, by quarter one of next year, end of quarter one of next year, you're going to see that spike that we're all looking for, this run over here. So you might still have time to accumulate, if you wanted to kind of establish this crypto market cycle. But again, each cycle is a little bit different, right? So I don't know to what degree it will go to. People expect it to be $1 million a coin, okay? But based on this model, the conservative bet would be 370,000 based on this. But I would go as far to say, 500,000 for this cycle. That's the take profit and then just slowly kind of fade it out. That's what I'm planning to do for altcoin season 2. Same. Let's see. I know, if you're not aware of crypto people, right? Crypto people, as if I'm one of them, right? Crypto usually follow what Bitcoin is doing. Now, Bitcoin is not crypto. When people are kind of confuse Bitcoin with crypto, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Crypto is like Ethereum and altcoins and all that stuff. Because again, they could be programmable, okay, meaning that they could be edited and all that stuff. So, programmed to do something, right, to track you, whatever. Every time you spend it. So other crypto could be programmed, while Bitcoin cannot. It's already fixed codes and already. That's why, again, people like Bitcoin, especially the people that have been here for a long time. They like Bitcoin more than other crypto. But again, other crypto could be useful too for a different reason. This one is store value right now. So let's just go with that. Project Rocket warming up. Yes, of course, for sure. But anyway, so that's just me kind of speculating based on this chart. And also there's other chart as well that you could see. Like this one I like. Is that, you know, you could see that it's nearly like it's nowhere near the top. Okay. You will see the top when people think that it's never gonna come down ever. It's like, oh, it's just gonna go up until the end of time, right? And then they get rug pull for sure. But based on this, like you could see, you know, last cycle it was end of year. Okay, this one right here, and then the last cycle here we didn't complete the whole wave to the red zone, but for whatever reason. So this one, you know, I would say towards the end of the year you could see something, you know, it's gonna go higher. How high? I don't know. You know, you could speculate. Your guess is probably better than mine based on this. All right, so okay, enough about Bitcoin. I know it's important. You know why? Because we have it on our balance sheets, right? Come on. So if Bitcoin goes up in value, what do you think is gonna happen to our stock, huh? The same. How high? And again, we could trade even higher in terms of percentage than Bitcoin, right? Because again, we have a lower market cap, so it only takes what 10 billion to double this price, right? So capital flow is going to come into to the stock rather than like people would say, well, why would I buy GME if I could just buy Bitcoin, right? Okay, then go buy Bitcoin. It's fine. Do that. But also understand the capitalization too, right? Market cap. If something has smaller market cap, it takes, you know, a small amount of capital to go into that. But anyway, so I wanted to see how many, if this has changed already. Now, I used to have Intel. Let me go look at Intel because they have different percentage for some reason. Let me see. Last we checked, it was like 40%, right? Okay, so it's still at 40%. But yeah, so you might see the next quarter, it's going to be increasing even more. And you might see over 50%, right? So I'm thinking like, again, you might not see the price movement until that happens next quarter. Okay, let's look out for that. Not to say I'm not gonna hype anything. Look, if you think June is gonna be the day, then okay. You know, you see a lot of like people speculating how Buck the Bunny page and all that stuff. Okay, that's fun to speculate all of that. But as far as like the fundamental of the company, right, and the price movement, you all know that retail don't move the price. Okay, it's this large institution that needs the share of GameStop for whatever reason, right? To short it, to long it, to, you know, disperse to those ETFs. For whatever reason, they're gonna need it. Okay, and like Moran was saying, right? If the price goes up in value, like higher and higher and higher over time, these things gonna have to increase because they're gonna need the shares, you know. And when this increase to more than 50%, 60%, that's when you immediately see people gonna start to like, oh yeah, look, institutional ownership is over 50%. And I can't tell you how many people decide to buy something because of the institution in it, right? So perhaps you don't see something like this happening to GameStop is because the critical mass hasn't been reached yet, okay? I'm telling you again, that doesn't mean that the company is not doing well. That doesn't mean that the company is shit, or that it will never happen. You know, when they say it never happened, it used to be like 20%. Now it's 40%. So yes, it's gonna happen. Just take some time. I say that. Anyway, um, and again, if we have like a free market, right, you guys, it would have happened a long time ago. We don't have a free market right now, unfortunately. So, or fortunately, depends on who you ask. I feel like, the more it's being suppressed, the more shares you're gonna get over time. So, pick your poison type thing. Okay, if you want the spike to happen today, okay, that's on you. It might not be spiking the way that you think it will be. Oh, Ralph, yeah, don't fuck this up. Yeah, for sure. Do you think GME will invest into other crypto? I don't know. I mean, speculation wise, um, they did mention something about stablecoin. So, XRP? That's just me throwing it out there. Yeah, stablecoin. It wouldn't be far fetched if they were to add something that has to do with stablecoin. And since XRP or XLM is the only, well, not only, but like there are ETH as well, but ETH is just more clunky and slow and expensive. So, yeah, XRP wouldn't be, yeah, just my speculation though. So I wouldn't be mad at all if they do that. But knowing how conservative it is, I'm sure he's gonna have to like at least talk with, you know, the expert first before he add to that. So if you see a picture with him and Brad Garlinghouse, then okay, then that's the clue. So just have to look at his Twitter to see, or X account. Okay. So GME did have ETH, Bluebring, and yeah, IMX. Yes. Yeah, we did sell it too, right? So, right. So those wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility either. Loopring, the wallet has been discontinued, so I don't know what's going on there. I did have some coins of Loopring, so not quite sure how I'm gonna take that, but I'm sure again the platform and all that stuff will come back. And yeah, I want Jimmy to do something with Loopring wallet. Maybe support it in some way. But just my personal opinion here. RLUSD, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if they have stablecoin and they, I think in Dubai or something, they did something with that. Uh, they just received the confirmation that they were able to use it, approved to use it in some way. So that's bullish for XRP for sure. And I can, to me, again, Ryan Cohen is not, stupid. I know he knows where the next leading edge of technology is and where to make money. And so, the fact that he is in that crowd of cryptocurrency, very aware of what's happening. And in the Bitcoin conference, you see how knowledgeable he is on the topic in of itself. Very refreshing for sure, and I trust his judgment on that. And to say that he's just gonna stop there and never gonna add more Bitcoin or never gonna learn more about that industry in general, it's stupid to say the least, right? it's not understanding your leadership here. Yeah, so more and more institutions are adding more. I have a lot of stuff to show you, but I'm just babbling around. It's like, goodness, how many hours have I babble? Okay, so actually I was gonna react to this gentleman here. I've shown his video before about MSDR and all that stuff, but before I do that, I'm actually gonna end with this video here. Now, this gentleman has been, in Bitcoin for quite some time. He's traders and, he does trades but whatever. I watch his video from time to time. But this one in particular, he is saying that he buys into GME because of Bitcoin, right? Reserve and all that stuff. So this narrative will play out, in, again, the disagreement between, people who buy GME because of Bitcoin versus people who just stay in Bitcoin because GME is not that and that, right? So this gentleman here seems very bullish on GME. So let's listen to his video. I might jump in soon. Let me take a sip of water too. So.
A ton of money into Bitcoin right now, and I'm also going to tell you why we just invested some money in Gamestop stock. Typically, I don't trade single stocks, but I made an exception in this case because the opportunity is just, it doesn't get much more obvious than it is. Today, I want to talk first and foremost about our Bitcoin strategy and why I think the next couple of months are going to be ridiculously bullish for Bitcoin. And I also want to talk about why we just bought a large chunk of GameStop. All right, first things first, we have a massive rally that Bitcoin is currently in. We're already up like 45% from the $77,000 lows that we saw about 2 months ago. April the 6th to the 8th, we pretty much bottomed out. We've been buying very aggressively, more or less ever since that point in time. We've acquired a lot of Bitcoin, and we are continuing along that track. We, as you know, I've told you this before, we buy Bitcoin every single day. We put more money into Bitcoin than we live on. We invest a ridiculous amount of our income straight into Bitcoin, and we're going to continue doing that for a very long time.
When your business needs fast, quality printing delivered on time. When a project...
Some of the reasons why I think Bitcoin's about to go to $120,000 to $150,000 very soon are as follows. We just had a post from Saylor today, posting the Saylor tracker, $62 billion. That means an acquisition from MicroStrategy is coming tomorrow. We just had an announcement over the last week that Saylor and MicroStrategy, or Strategy now, are working on a $21 billion fundraising, a round of capital to invest $21 billion into the Bitcoin market. We have JD Vance opening up the second day of Bitcoin 2025 next week, 9 a.m. at the Nakamoto stage. I will be there, looking very much forward to that. I have a feeling that he's going to announce the United States selling gold to buy Bitcoin. I don't know that. I don't have insider information on that.
That was just speculating. And this video was like, I think 6 or 9 days ago. So this is, recently when GME announced the buys of Bitcoin.
I'm trying to get some, haven't found any yet, but I have a feeling he's probably going to be announcing U.S. liquidation of gold stock, of gold stores to acquire Bitcoin. So wouldn't be surprised if that announcement came next week, which would lead to an absolute massive rally. And those of us at the conference will see that first and foremost. Look for me. I'll be the guy in a black suit with an orange tie. Really looking forward to seeing you guys there. And I have a lot of other reasons to believe that Bitcoin's about to go to 120 to 150. We're having a nice, solid, healthy correction right now. Nothing terrible, not a flash crash. We dropped down to 106, 107. And that's very good. It means that Bitcoin's trading sideways right here. It means that we're consolidating. It means that we're cooling off on RSI a little bit. It means that we're having a nice re-entry. We're allowing for the people that are trading Bitcoin to take their exits without crashing the market. We've not gone and liquidated a bunch of the long trades, unless you're 40X like James Wynn. Rest in peace to James Wynn's trade. We've got so many reasons to be very bullish on Bitcoin right now. I believe that Bitcoin by the end of this year will rally to at least $180,000, as high as $500,000. But realistically, we're probably looking at $200,000 to $250,000 as a result of all of the entries coming in. A couple of other things off the top of my head: we got Jack Mallers and Jack Dorsey working on 21. They're looking to acquire, along with Tether, up to 5% of the Bitcoin network, so 1 million Bitcoin. You've got Jack Mallers also coming out from Strike, saying that the United Arab Emirates is buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin secretly, and that they're mining Bitcoin now. We've got so many different funds, so many different institutional players that are pro-Bitcoin right now that were not 24 months ago. A lot of acquisition going on in the institutional landscape. It's becoming a much more, Bitcoin is becoming much more mainstream with people that understand finance. The experts, the people that have been in finance for a long time, the traditional financial experts are starting to embrace Bitcoin. It's happening slowly, but it's happening surely. And in the grand scheme of things, it's actually happening relatively quickly. So very exciting there. Now, I also want to explain why I just took a position in GameStop. I'm not going to tell you to, but I'm going to tell you what I did. Right? My favorite way to give advice is to not give advice, just to tell you what I'm doing, and you can either follow or not. But I'm going to give you my train of thought, and you can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Back in March, a lot of very significant things happened with GameStop. GameStop, if you don't know, has not been doing well over the last 5-6 years. Their revenue sat sideways through the late 2010s at $10 billion a year. It's declined all the way down to about, I can't remember if it's $4 or $6 billion. I think it's about $4 billion now. So the revenue's down, give or take 50%, more or less ever since COVID, because people really started to lean into Steam and the Nintendo Switch store and whatever it's called, and all these different online stores. GameStop took a pretty big hit after that. So their stock did very well originally, but the revenue's not doing very well because they kind of went meme stock territory. Now, in March, Ryan Cohen, the chief executive officer of GameStop, posted a picture with Michael Saylor. Ryan Cohen only posts to his Twitter about twice a month. He's not very active, and he posted a picture between him and Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor reposted about Ryan Cohen, and it was the meme of, leaning in. It was the meme of leaning in and seeing Bitcoin, and he tagged Ryan Cohen. And then right after that, Saylor posted a poll asking how much money GameStop ought to put into Bitcoin, like 0, 250 million, 1 billion, or 3 billion plus. And so Michael Saylor obviously knows something that we don't. Ryan Cohen is obviously leaning in the direction of Bitcoin, and it makes sense when you factor in two things. First and foremost, GameStop is a software company, and it's a brick and mortar store also, but it's more so software that is going in the same direction that Strategy was before Saylor found Bitcoin. They're having a very difficult time continuing to grow the business. The business is shrinking. It's shrinking fast because the times there are changing, as Bob Dylan said. And this is the same situation that Saylor was in when he found Bitcoin. Strategy was not doing very well. The stock was on a just downward-facing slope into oblivion, and he realized to preserve investor capital, and you'll see this in most of Saylor's interviews. You saw him talk about it in the interview that I did with him. I met Saylor. We've got the interview of us with him on the channel. They were in a very desperate situation when Saylor found Bitcoin. GameStop is entering into a similarly extremely desperate situation. And if they're honest, they realize that this is a dangerous situation that they're in. And so what is GameStop supposed to do when they're sitting on $4.5 billion in cash, but the revenue is decreasing very rapidly, they're having to close stores, etc.? What makes sense is for them to become a Bitcoin treasury company, which is why about 2 months ago, once again in March, the board at GameStop unanimously, as in zero opposition, unanimously passed a resolution to add Bitcoin to its treasury, to update the treasury protocol so that they can invest in Bitcoin. Leading right after that, you move into April, and it was the start of a new quarter. They raised $1.5 billion through a debt offering to add on top of their pile of $4.5 billion. So now they're sitting on about $6 billion of cash, and you've got to wonder, well, what does a company that is known for being kind of a meme stock, that's known for doing things a little bit abnormal, that has lost 50 to 60% of its revenue, and that trend is continuing, what does that company do to preserve and grow investor capital? Especially when you see that this chief executive officer and the entire board and most of the C-suite executives at GameStop love Bitcoin. What do you think is going to happen? It's really not a question of whether or not they bought Bitcoin in Q2 and they just haven't announced it yet. It's really more of a question of how much did they buy? Did they buy $1 billion? Did they buy $2 billion? I don't know. What I did when I realized this, because I was scrolling X and I saw it, I realized this and dug into it. We took a position in GameStop, a pretty large position in GameStop, at $28.80 a share. Right now it's trading at $33 a share. So we've seen a big rally on GameStop, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. When we took our entry, GameStop market capitalization was $11 billion. It is already $13 billion, and I expect it's probably going to go to $20 to $30 billion in market cap. You're probably looking at $50 to $100 at least per share on the GameStop stock as a result of this announcement that they're going to make soon. So one of two things are going to happen. Either one, they're going to Bitcoin 2025, and they haven't told anybody because there's no official announcement that they're going, but they might be there. Who knows? Maybe they announce it there. Or they wait until, I believe it's June 6th, when they have to disclose their quarterly earnings and their quarterly securities filing, that they did acquire Bitcoin. And when that announcement happens, then GameStop stock is probably going to moonshot. So it's not exactly insider information because they basically told the entire public they were doing it, but the public never really noticed because they updated the Treasury policy. Ryan Cohen and Saylor seem to be best of pals now. Saylor seems to basically have signaled that they're going to buy Bitcoin. They're just deciding on how much. He more or less said that out loud. He said the quiet part out loud. So it's basically a sure fact that GameStop has acquired Bitcoin. They just haven't disclosed it yet because they probably want to acquire as much as they can before they announce it, and it shoots the price up and they have to buy higher. So stay tuned for that. That's probably going to happen.
Hi, Mr. Wonderful here. I don't...
Okay, so I'm not going to finish the whole video. But yeah, I agree with most of that being said. But yeah, so my point in showing you that is that, there are people who have that type of sentiment, and that they would just buy GME because of Bitcoin treasury type thing, right? And also there's a bad side to that too, right? What if we don't buy enough Bitcoin? They're gonna whine. They're gonna cry and all that stuff, right? It's okay. And then they're gonna be like shorting the company, right? Adding to the flame. Now there are people like this one here. And he's have a lot longer of a video, so let me just speed it up so I don't waste too much time here. But he's just explaining how GME adding to Bitcoin, I think. Which one? I think we saw that one already.
But we'll see what happens. Nobody has a crystal ball, but that's the current thesis.
Now, what I find interesting about here is Ryan does understand Bitcoin to some degree. He talks about it in relation to gold. And I think the reason that he does that is because he's a public company with a large war chest of capital. They have a huge amount of dollars on their balance sheet, and I think most of that is just in treasuries. But so you're kind of looking for other options that could outperform those treasuries, right? You can't, as a company, individually start picking stocks without changing what type of company you are. So it makes it very difficult to invest in securities. Michael Saylor has talked about this a lot. So in that, you start looking at what can you invest in as a company, or what can you hold on your balance sheet to improve your company standing over time. And one of the things that you can hold is commodities. So you look into something like gold, right? You look into Bitcoin, and you start comparing those two things, because those two are really the main thing that companies could consider beyond treasuries. Those are the two things that would make sense. It wouldn't make sense to start buying other commodities, corn or oil or something like that. It doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't make sense to buy any other cryptocurrencies, as they're completely centralized and they don't have the liquidity of Bitcoin and so many other things as well. So I like this part of the interview because he's coming at it from that lens, but it's clear that he's done his homework, or that he's been educated. He understands Bitcoin at this level. This conversation doesn't go much deeper about does he understand proof of work or supply issuance or difficulty adjustment. How much does he understand beyond the comparison of Bitcoin and gold? I'm not sure, but it is pretty promising that he has done his homework at least this far.
Well, congratulations. And I feel like GameStop is the ultimate meme stock, and Bitcoin is the ultimate meme money. And if you combine the two, you get a meme super cycle. So, what's next for GameStop?
David raises a very...
What's a meme super cycle? Remain to be seen, right? We'll see.
Very interesting point here. The fact that GameStop is such a meme stock allows it to have incredible volatility and retail interest, which creates a different pricing dynamics because there's different types of buyers. So this was part of my thesis as well. I was a GameStop shareholder. I got out of the position because I felt like the transparency wasn't there, and I preferred to invest in things that were more transparent, which I'll get into a lot more at the end, because there's more things that Ryan says that really illustrate that point.
Now, at this point, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who have that sentiment, because Ryan Cohen doesn't tell them what is happening, going to happen in 2 days, right? Or next quarter. And this type of sentiment is prevalent, okay? And so people who are typically would buy into the company because, like, for whatever reason, right? They just don't want to choose GME. So there are people that like that around. Like retail, right? He's retail. He's not like institution or anything like that. So don't get in the crowd where oh, everyone have GME, like, you know, the whole world have GME. Wow, wow. Only a handful, I feel. You know, we're still early into this company. Is what I'm trying to say to you guys. Is that we're part of, you know, the 1% for sure that are, you know, believing in the company for the right reason, in my opinion. But for people who are just speculating, in and out because of Bitcoin, because of Ryan Cohen doesn't, you know, telegraph the whole game plan for them, it would just be out for that reason. So again, this gentleman kind of like explained that pretty well.
However, when I was a shareholder, part of my thesis was this stock, GameStop, is already incredibly volatile and it has these short runs of volatility. So my idea was to harness that volatility and sell out of the money covered calls against it. And I actually did fairly well with that. Never got in the money, was able to harvest sort of that premium. And the idea I had was if they...
And I think like institution has been doing that as well. You know, understand that. That's why you have an influx of, a covered call, writing on the company, and then, immediately you just see the price coming down. So that's what institution has been doing as well. They know what price they wanted to get in up to, and then smack us right back down. But again, this is the battle, right? And it's dynamic for sure, right? Just because it's down for what, couple of years doesn't mean that's going to stay down for until the end of time. No, company's dynamic, company's going to change, people going to change, traders going to change, institutions going to change their mind. So and it just so happened that right now we're going up in value because sentiment change, about the company. So that it's that simple. Now other stuff that happens with the company where shorting, selling more shares than they exist. Could that happen? I don't know. I can't prove that. All I know is that the price is going to the other direction. So, yeah. So I'm just going to run with that.
They really did implement the strategy playbook and harness that volatility and really, created products like convertible bonds or something like that, which actually they did do. Again, we'll go into this deeper. But part of my thesis was the combination of Bitcoin's volatility and GameStop's already having a high implied volatility could lead them to an outperformance and an ability to acquire a lot of Bitcoin by issuing things like convertible bonds.
Are you going to buy more Bitcoin? Is this the next MicroStrategy, the next MetaPlanet, or even better?
We're not going to call our shots in advance for obvious reasons, but GameStop is following GameStop's strategy. We're not following anyone else's strategy.
Okay.
So this really points again to the lack of transparency. And I think it is not an obvious reason. I think Ryan Cohen says for obvious reasons, we're not going to call our shots. That's the way he puts it. I think actually it's less obvious. It wasn't obvious to me on a first listen. I had to kind of think about why is he not being transparent? What I recognized and realized is that GameStop has a history of being one of the most manipulated stocks on the stock market, having huge short interest, over amount of shorts compared to the actual outstanding shares. I think what GameStop has going for it right now is its uncertainty, which creates, again, that volatility. If you don't know what they're going to do, it makes it very dangerous to short it, and there allows a lot of liquidation events for shorts when they do something that's unpredictable. So I think that is part of the reason that they're not calling the shots. They're not being as transparent as, say, MetaPlanet or Strategy that announces, say with Strategy, announces every week how much they bought it for, all of this information. Whereas with GameStop, we don't know even how much they paid for these, right? And I'm going to get into some math near the end of this video. But if they ended up buying it for a fairly low price, again, unsure of what that would be, the market doesn't know either, and that goes on to their earnings because of fair value accounting of Bitcoin, that could really surprise to the upside for their earnings per share and their revenue and whatnot. And that could obliterate some shorts or just have this crazy outperformance in the short term. So I think that there is good reason for them to do what they're doing by not calling their shots, by doing the GameStop strategy as opposed to following anybody else's strategy. But again, this kind of unpredictability isn't my type of investment, hence why I've liquidated my position and actually moved into Metaplanet predominantly. I did buy some CEP as well. So those were my two position changes after owning GameStop and selling calls against it.
What is
Yeah, but anyway, so he's explained it pretty well in the uncertainty factor. So it makes it difficult for people who are, counterproductive to this company, and they would just short GME to oblivion. And so that point is pretty along the line of what I was thinking as well. That GME it's pretty smart. I mean, Ryan Cohen's pretty smart in doing that. Now, the upside, downside, and all that stuff depends on when they buy that Bitcoin at, right? So yeah, we'll find it out soon. Carter, okay, MSTR outperformed underperformed versus Bitcoin over the past month. Does this normally mimic? It's not normal for sure, but if it underperform, I think MSTR has a leg up then, because it's more beneficial to own MSTR if it underperforms, because again, it acts as a magnet towards each other, right? So if MSTR is lower than Bitcoin, then it's going to catch up to Bitcoin at some point. So yeah, so the opportunity is in MSTR rather than Bitcoin. Straight up. Because again, it's ebbs and flow, right? So eventually MSTR is going to outperform Bitcoin's return if it's underperformed, because people are gonna, flood in to MSTR when they don't see MSTR move while Bitcoin is moving rapidly to the upside. And, people are gonna come in and out like that. Again, dynamically, right? Because people are not gonna be stagnant in just one place. And they really, entice people to do that, because they, want people to really think, okay, if I jump over here, jump over here, right? I could make gazillions of dollars from that. But we all know that at some point you're gonna miss, and you're not gonna make as much as if you just stay put, right, in one place and just keep buying, indiscriminatory. As long as you believe in that instrument, just buy, hold, and wait for a long time, like decades on end, until your thesis is correct, right? So I see schemer all over. Okay, it's fine, whatever you feel about this leadership, it's the same way. Like people don't like Ryan Cohen either, right? So there are people who like that, where they vibe in certain people, and then certain people, they just don't understand it quite well. For me, Michael Saylor, he's just trying to do best for his shareholder and himself, I'm sure. He liked to talk, for sure. You could see how many hours he's been, on interview, and he's been pretty good at explaining. I could understand what he's trying to say.
is the message you'd like to send the global Bitcoin community and everyone who's watching this interview right now?
No pressure.
Who's coming in the driveway?
Anyway, you guys, I'm just going to end it here, because I've been here for quite some time. Kind of getting hungry at the moment. But yeah, if you guys want to finish up this video, it's on YouTube. It's Bitcoin Not Crypto, and he's talking about the rest of his thoughts. Pretty informative. I feel like he's pretty transparent on his thoughts, and yeah, I can't tell you how many people agree with him by not buying into GME because of Brian Cohen, quote unquote uncertainty, right? Which doesn't make sense to me because again, that's the feature, not the bug, right? It's a feature of this stock for sure, and so it just make it difficult for people to predict the move, and again, they could really attack it anywhere. So, and even with Bitcoin too, like if GME were to tell them what price point, they could attack it. They could just place some scary news about Bitcoin being hacked or whatever, right? Some fake news real quick, and then drop the price down to wherever GME is buy it at, right? Just so that they could cover the whatever position or benefited from the price drop, buy puts and all that stuff, so ahead of time, so that they could make some amount so that they could convert into shares and scares a lot of retail investor out, and then there you go, they have more shares than retail. So, and this is what institution does, you guys, like I'm telling you, when they are dropping the price like this, usually what happens, lots of institution, lots of demand from institutional side, so that they could buy it at a lower price, as low as possible. The same way over here when they announced the convertible notes right here, right? And then inevitably what happened? The next couple months, look at the price, right? So the same way could happen here too. Okay. All right, guys. Sorry, a long-winded one. I'm kind of hungry right now, so let me go eat, and I'll come back tomorrow, maybe. Who knows? Maybe not. Depends. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. See ya.